everybody. Steve Schneider on the LHSAA Network, back for another season of Around the Boot. This is season number 2, episode number 2, and we're headed up to Monroe right away. And our friend who covers football like no other, Jake, is on. What a huge start in terms of big games, marquee games, and results this first week of high school football.
Yeah, it's what you want, right? You want these big matchups right out of the gate, and we had a bunch of big stories last night. I think the biggest probably was Neville and Evangel, and I got to be at that game. Fortunate to be there.
Tell me what it was like. The atmosphere, the energy of the players, the strategy from the coaches. Like it was like a playoff game in week 1, kind of what college football does now.
Yeah, it was one of those games where, I sat down afterwards to write about it, and I was like, where the heck do I begin? Because, I mean, it was the funniest thing, and when I joke with Mike Collins, Neville head coach, about this, the grades have been thrown around a lot this week because of Dabo and Brian Kelly. If you were to grade Neville's special teams in the first 3 quarters, it would be a 0. I mean, they missed 2 field goals. They had a punt block that went for a touchdown. They missed multiple extra points. I mean, it was just awful.
You know what? We had the same thing in our game of the week. St. Charles Catholic prides itself on special teams and not penalties, and a good part of the game, it was just disaster.
But then the fourth quarter rolls around, and special teams wins the game for Neville. So it's a back and forth game. It's 26. It was actually 26 to 20 Evangel at this point in the game, and Neville gets a great punt off. They pin Evangel inside the 5-yard line. They force a fumble. They score. They tie the game. Then they have a punt return for a score, and then they end the game by blocking a field goal attempt. So it's like first 3 quarters 0, fourth quarter A+. It was so weird.
How about the quarterbacks? How about the quarterbacks?
The quarterbacks were really good. Obviously everybody knows about Pop Houston out of Evangel. He is special. If you haven't seen him play, I would say go out of your way to watch him play. He kind of reminds me of Kyler Murray because he just kind of got that similar build in terms of, man, he's just wiggly in the backfield. He can run it very well. I think he's a little more physical this year after watching him last year. He looks a little bit bigger. And I watched him make some tough runs this year that I didn't really see as much last year, but he can throw on the move like nobody else in the state. And he's phenomenal. But what I was blown away with was Parker Robinson, who's kind of overshadowed. Because, look, this 2027 class, I think everybody knows, 2027 quarterbacks, unreal in this state. But don't sleep on Parker Robinson out of Neville. He's really good, too. And he got hurt in the third quarter. It was so bad that I thought it was a season ender. Like, you could hear him screaming. All the coaches flood over there. And he showed his toughness. He came out of the game. Neville got a 3 and out. He had to go right back in. And he limped his way through the finish line. So I was really impressed with Parker's toughness in this game.
The other big story, West Monroe, a new era. And
yeah.
Tell us about the start for the Rebels.
Yeah, DeMichael Dizer, it's his very first game as the head coach of the West Monroe Rebels, and he was victorious. West Monroe, I think defensively was a little sloppy early on, but, it's the first game. And I had one coach point out to me, John Diars, who actually got a victory in his first week too. He said, short week on Thursday, and then you also have Labor Day where the kids are out of school. It's kind of hard to prepare, not giving excuses, but I saw a lot of sloppy play. Obviously, it's week 1. I think maybe you can attribute that to some of it too, just being a short week and Labor Day. But West Monroe still looked good offensively. They settled on a quarterback with Brady Gio. He threw a couple touchdowns, was very efficient distributing the football. If people don't know the name Trez Davis, he was great last year. He was just a couple yards shy of being a 1,000-yard receiver at West Monroe. Imagine telling your dad or your grandpa that. They wouldn't believe it, right? But he's a special receiver, and he ends up being a 4-star. He gets his 4th star this offseason, and he scores 3 touchdowns in the Bayou Jam, turns around and scores 2 touchdowns against Huntington and goes over 150 yards receiving. So I just can't say enough about his hot start. If people don't know the name Trez Davis, you better get to learn him because he's one of the best receivers in the state.
Not your dad's West Monroe Rebel program. Tommy Banks was nowhere to be found.
That's right. That's right.
So I got a quick question for you.
What you got?
What is the closest beach to Sterlington High School?
The closest what now?
Beach.
Oh my
They're having a
gosh.
beach bum promotion for their fans on week one of the season.
Yeah, you got to do whatever you can to get fans out and get fans excited, right? I don't fault anybody. I will say this: I would like to challenge the fans across the state. I've been to some games recently where either it wasn't well attended or as well attended as it used to be, or like last night with Neville and Evangel, a little quiet. And Neville came out flat, I think, because of it. It's just no juice in the stadium. And I kind of got on them on the morning drive with Aaron and Jake.
Yeah,
Just, you're there. Get loud,
bring
get
it.
into it.
Yeah.
Bring the juice. Yeah. I'd just like to see a little bit more of that going forward.
Jake, great hearing from you. Thanks for being on the show as always, and have a great week too. We'll catch up again with you real soon.
My pleasure, buddy.
All right, more of Around the Boot right after this.
For over 100 years, our families have gathered together to share with each other our challenges and hopes, to take this light we've been gifted and paint a brighter future for the next generation. The seeds we plant today are the bounty we harvest tomorrow. As farmers, we know that together we're stronger than we could ever be apart. We're the Louisiana Farm Bureau, and we're the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
If you want to break the rock, you need to make yourself indestructible. If you want to play between the hedges, you need to work out there, up there, down there, everywhere. If you want to reach the win bar, you need to lose sleep, lose count. You need to play every game like you got nothing to lose.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Around the Boot, and we bring in a guy who's going to have a special place in Friday Night in the Boot this year. Troy LeBoeuf joining us now. And Troy, all the way back to the days of Sportsline Friday Night, you told me, hey, I'd love to jump on a show, share my expertise. And, of course, you did that with us in the Superdome, our first championship voyage, maiden voyage. But welcome to the team, and excited to have you on. And what kind of football season are we expecting in the Boot?
Man, I'm excited to be on, Steve. It's followed Sportsline Friday night since it started my senior year in high school when you guys came down and covered Ascension Catholic and the Juice, Jermaine Williams.
Yes.
I think I would send 3 cameras over that because you knew Juice would do something special.
And he
But
did.
I always loved seeing it. Everybody just rush to get to the TVs. Now, what's going on now with the LHSAA network, it's just amazing. I mean, we don't have to rush to the TVs. We can look at it on our iPads or our iPhones or whatever. And I'm super excited to be joining you on Friday nights. So much great football in the state of Louisiana. And obviously, we've gotten it started. We've kicked them off and some really good games. I know we'll have I looked at the slate of games we'll be covering, man. It's not just in the local area. It's from the bottom of the boot to the top of the boot. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, obviously, it's easy just to focus on the teams that were in the Dome last year, right? There were so many great performances. The 6 games that went down to the last possession, the last second, and even the 2 blowouts. Those were epic performances by Central and Edna Carr that we've not seen really before in at least in a long time. Do you come down on the idea of following one or more of those schools to see if they can be back there, win it again? Or do you look at some of the outliers that maybe you're going to jump up and surprise us?
Yeah, I think we could have some surprise. I got some dark horses that we'll talk about on Friday night in the boot. But I want to reference Central. I mean, what Coach Seminole does, he is a winner at every level. Everywhere he's been, you've covered him at Point Capee. You've covered him everywhere he's been, and he wins. And what they did last year was amazing. I mean, I think, and look, the transfer portal has hit the college ranks, obviously. It has now hit the high school ranks. I mean, he's got a transfer from Gulf Shores, Alabama, who's actually visiting LSU this weekend. So Jermichael Garrett's his name. He's a 4-star linebacker. But what Coach Semino and his staff do is fantastic. And you mentioned Carr. From my research so far and what I've seen, they are the best team in the state of Louisiana. And usually it's the skilled athletes, which they always have skilled athletes. I think it's the offensive line. You're going to see their offensive line. They will absolutely just road grade you. They can pass pro, and they are nasty. You got to have nasty guys up front. I can't wait to see what Carr does. And I know Catholic of Baton Rouge lost to those guys in the semis last year. But watch out for Coach Hudson Fuller and those guys, because they're going to remember that, and they're going to have to play Central. So, I'm excited about it.
Ken Trahan said Catholic's number 2 in the state, and it's not as big a space between them and Carr, because we saw Catholic had them. Like, they let them off the ropes there in the end, but like you said, you kind of plant that seed, and you go through your summer workouts and your weight training, and it's all designed to get you past those guys.
Yeah, Jaden Miles, a running back for Catholic. Can't wait. He's a 2027 guy. He is a big physical running back. You know the lineage of running backs that have come through Catholic High. You covered every single one of them. And Jaden Miles is the next great running back to come out. And he's got an offer from everybody in the country, including LSU. So Miles will be the feature back. But I think they're going to be really good on defense. Defensively is probably what they needed to improve the most. They got Blaine Bradford roaming in that secondary. His brother's already at LSU. Right. Ohio State has his verbal commitment, but LSU's not giving up that fight.
I remember Hudson Fuller said, "You think this guy's good? Wait till you see his little brother." That's a guy who sees him every day, and he had that opinion.
Well, if you build a safety in a lab, he's it. He is just made to come down the alley and hit you, but he can also cover as well. He can be a big part of the defense in stopping the run, but he can also cover.
Back to Coach Semino, I just think back to when the guy was a player on those Parkview teams, and Kenny Guillotte, like just the old school, an offensive lineman, an offensive line coach. Certainly the game has changed, right? You got to spread out. You got to come up with creative plays, and Hudson Fuller's a guy who certainly does that, and it works well. But, Semino, he's cut from that cloth of Kenny Guillotte, and with you coming on to co-host Friday Night in the Boot, I can think of that was his dream, was to be on Sportsline to co-host with me, and then the night he was on, he was looking around. It was hard for him to not be on the sideline coaching, to sit there and talk about teams.
Once a ball coach, always a ball coach. I was a ball coach, and I still think about it at times, but I really love what I'm doing now. I've had the opportunity, to share the booth with my son, which is, he's an 18-year-old freshman. It was amazing. My mom was in the business a long, long time ago, and I got to go in one of this little small radio station and press all the buttons, and I like, man, I think I can do this one day. But I love what you guys are doing. The partnership with the LHSAA. Football in Louisiana is huge, man. It is huge. And what I love about it is the little small towns. You and I talked about the little small towns that pack the stadium on Thursdays and Friday nights, and it's what makes it go. And people love to go because there's not a whole lot else to do. So you go to the ball games, even if you don't have somebody playing anymore. It's just a love for it, and I can't wait to talk about those teams.
There's a secret to it. It's about the kids. As long as you always put the kids first, their parents will follow, their communities will follow, and you'll be doing the right thing.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Protect what matters most to you and find out the many ways you can benefit. 100% free tuition and fees to all state colleges. Job training in over 150 different career fields, healthcare, pay, and much more. The Louisiana Army National Guard. Part-time service with lifelong benefits. Find out more by visiting www.lang-recruiting.com.
No one ever thinks they'll be in this position. Buying medication online could put you here, or here, or here. Counterfeit pills and other illicit substances are being laced with fentanyl, and fentanyl kills. It's 50 times stronger than heroin. Medical professionals can't even tell the difference between a real pill and one that is fake. At least not until they do your autopsy. Don't take anything online that doesn't come from your doctor. Buying online can leave you flatlined.
For over 100 years, our families have gathered together to share with each other our challenges and hopes, to take this light we've been gifted and paint a brighter future for the next generation. The seeds we plant today are the bounty we harvest tomorrow. As farmers, we know that together we're stronger than we could ever be apart. We're the Louisiana Farm Bureau, and we're the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Around the Boot. Steve Schneider, LHSAA Network. Pleased to bring in a newbie, Chris Demirdjan from up in Shreveport, joining us this year as part of the Around the Boot family. And Chris, what's got you excited about this 2025 season? High school football is back.
Hey, well, first, Steve, it's really an honor to be a part of this program. I really respect your work. I've followed you for so long, and it really is an honor being a part of this new venture. So I'm definitely glad to be here. Honestly, there's a lot going on. A lot of excitement going on in North Louisiana for football, especially in our neck of the woods. I had a chance to stop by a few camps earlier in fall camp. One team that really stood out to me was Evangel. They really have a lot going on, especially quarterback play. Peyton Pop Houston entering his junior year. Last year made national headlines for what he did against Captain Shreve, surpassing breaking record perhaps. Of course, there's some controversy on who, if he actually broke the record or not, with Will Greer, passing for yards in a game that apparently that NFHS doesn't recognize. But either way, Pop Houston had a great game last year versus Captain Shreve. And when talking to coaches at Evangel this past year, you really felt like the program is in essence back in a sense. They have a lot of returning talent. We do a podcast ourselves on KSLA. Every Thursday we visited with Evangel's, not Coach Duron, but Coach Fabian Carter, who played at Evangel.
Yes.
Who played at Grambling and Evangel years ago. And he's a strength and conditioning guy. And he told me he really has bolstered up and get these guys strong in the weight room and make sure these guys are competing every single rep and not, whether it's in the weight room or whether it's in the live action on, not giving up.
Jake Martin said earlier in the show that even this little diminutive quarterback, and you'd expect kids in high school, they start filling out but apparently he's done some work in the weight room even with his quarterback.
He has, and he looks really solid as well. I mean, all of Evangel, they have really big offensive linemen. Just looking at them in camp throughout the fall, they're really big up front in the trenches on offense and defense, and that's something that really stood out to me. Also, another squad, that's always be in the mix for a championship every year. Calvary, they got some players in the offseason to come over to Calvary and who's going to bolster up that program even more. Calvary, it looks really athletic, especially the skill position. Calvary always has really good athletes in the skill positions, whether it's a running back, receiver, what have you. They look really good as well.
They've got a great program all the way across the board. I mean, every sport.
Oh, they do. They really sports is they really go all in on sports over there. They're about to complete. I believe at the end of this year, the renovated field house at Calvary Baptist, and so it's really a lot going on in Calvary as well. Coach Ewan, he won a state championship only a couple of years ago, and so they fell just short last season in the second round of the playoffs at home. But they're always in the mix. What school from? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing. You weren't on this, around the boot thing last year. Love that you're with us this year. But one thing we really noticed every Thursday, every Friday, the scores, they were astronomical.
Yes.
A lot of times the football teams scored more than their basketball teams.
Yeah.
Do you expect that trend to continue where it's just the defenses can't keep up with these, innovative and talented offensive players and coaches?
Well, this year we have talked to a lot of coaches about defense, and they are putting a lot more emphasis on defense this year. We could still see, that those high basketball scores because historically, and there's one team I was going to mention, Steve, Airline High School, a team that's made it to, not as close to the semifinals, I believe, the last couple of years, but they've lost these 55-49 games in Destrehan. They've lost these one possession games, and they're in the 50s and in the 60s. And so, like you said, the defense, it's really interesting how it's constructed in this part of the state. Because, as you said, that game where Pop Houston went off against Captain Shreve, that was a 77-76 game in overtime,
and he didn't win.
and it didn't win. It was even a game involving Airline. It was 67-65. The Captain Shreve that night. So it was really there's really a lot of offense that goes on in our neck of the woods. I've noticed that.
I'd say get your calculator out, but I don't think we use calculators anymore, right?
No, well, at least on our phones. We use calculators on our phones. But it's really.
I'm just going to say it's a pleasure having you on the show, and we look forward to having you back like every other week or every third or fourth week to, give us a sense of what's the pulse up there in the Shreveport-Bossier area.
Hey, I'm ready whenever you need me. It's such an honor to be a part of this program, and honestly, it's great that you're part of you always were part of the great family. You never stopped being part of the great family. But it really is an honor to have you team up with Gray, and the LHSAA network is such a well-produced network. You do such an incredible job. Honestly, I feel like whenever I'm down in the Superdome every year, I feel like I'm watching a Super Bowl broadcast. I feel like I'm watching the Super Bowl on location because the talent you have on there, the professionalism. You guys really care about sports. It really shows.
The LHSAA Network TV app features a 24/7 live channel as well as on-demand content with all the high school sports you want, and it's totally free. The app is available for download on TV-connected devices, including Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. It's the only place where every day is game day. Download the LHSAA Network TV app today.
So it's going to come down to this. Can they do it?
Oh no, they missed it! Wait a minute! There's a flag on the play!
Protect what matters most to you and find out the many ways you can benefit. 100% free tuition and fees to all state colleges. Job training in over 150 different career fields, healthcare, pay, and much more. The Louisiana Army National Guard. Part-time service with lifelong benefits. Find out more by visiting www.lang-recruiting.com.
Steve Schneider back with the Round the Boot and our cleanup hitter, not just because she has a dog named Slugger, because there's one named Shortstop too, Chessa Bouche in Baton Rouge. Chessa, what are you looking forward to this season? We've seen week one, a lot of primetime key matchups, some surprises. Tell us what you're looking to see during the course of this 2025 season.
I'm excited to watch the quarterback play around, especially the Baton Rouge area. There aren't a ton of veterans. Babineau from Santa Maula is about the only quarterback that we're super familiar with. I saw Central play against De La Salle for our game of the week. They have a brand new signal caller. So there are a lot of new quarterbacks that are going to take over programs that are either successful or on the rise or who have been powerhouses. And so it's interesting to see how offenses kind of get going. We know week one there's a lot of rust. You're trying to figure out who's running back one, who's your main weapon that you're going to be throwing to. And so for me, it's just, what does this quarterback play look like? Central, they've faced De La Salle in their week one game. Last year they won 14-3. This year It was 2013. The total points, it was 33 points total combined for the first half. Second half, absolute shutout for both teams. So as you can see, defense is going to, and I think forever, especially in football, win you championships. So you have to lean on your defense. Central last year had a stellar defense. We saw that with a 42-0 shutout win over Ruston in the Superdome, and I think they have a really good defense yet again. I'm not surprised. David Semino's ball clubs always have great defenses, and that's kind of where they hang their hat on. He was not real happy with the win. Obviously, you want to win, but he was not happy with the way his team came out. He said that, of course, they were going to have a target on their back. They will, especially moving forward, and they just didn't give a whole lot of energy and effort. And Coach Semino was mad. I've seen him mad before, but he was kind of gritting his teeth every question I had to ask him. And so it was one of those of, we know that the standard is high, even though they're coming off that state championship win. It was the first one in 58 years, and that wasn't even in 5A. And now this year, season 3 under Coach Sim. So expectations are high, standards are high, and I expect nothing less. So I'm excited to see more of the quarterback play and what defenses really stand out amongst the Baton Rouge area schools.
Yeah, and there's some great quarterbacks all over the state, as you know. You spent time growing up in the Bouche area, and Evangel's got a guy who's making all sorts of headlines and about to make a big commitment. And we can't name them all. Sometimes it helps if they have a line that can block, that's big enough and experienced enough, and then you could be like Newman in our game of the week, where you don't really have a quarterback, so you put your best athlete back there. And I can remember back to the days of Michael Clayton at Christian Life. Anybody who is old enough to remember that, like, he got stuck playing quarterback because they didn't have a Stephon LaForce to throw to him anymore. So it's always fascinating. But David Semino is a competitor. You get that right off the bat when you talk to that guy, right?
Absolutely. But it's funny you brought up Evangel. We know that Demirdjan knows how to develop quarterbacks. He has had a plethora of big arms come out of Evangel. I'm excited to see them in person. I haven't seen them in person yet, but I think I would not be surprised by quarterback play. We know that their previous quarterback is now at Clemson, and so not surprising. Evangel knows how to grow them there, and especially with the big arms. So I'm excited to see them play this year.
Our first week of this show this season, Ken Trahan said, I asked him, like, is it Carr and everybody else? Because Carr is just like this superpower. They just trucked over Shaw again, and just so strong all the way down the roster. And he said, look, Catholic can be right there. Like, Catholic literally had them down last year and then let them off the ropes. But what do you feel about, like, the best teams in the entire state? Obviously, Central got there eventually. But just, if you're handicapping the beginning of this season in terms of the roster, the experience, the drive, the motivation, I spent some time talking about Zachary, a team that, is usually always there and definitely motivated to get back there this year. In terms of the top level, who do you think are maybe some of the teams to keep an eye on?
I think Zachary could be back in the mix. I saw them scrimmage a few weeks ago. Their defense looked phenomenal offensively. They looked a little handicapped because, again, they have a new quarterback, but they always have a plethora of running backs. They know how to get the ball to the end zone. So for me, it's how does that offense look like with a new quarterback? Because, again, was it last year? They were trying to figure it out with 2 quarterback system, and they ended up going with Caleb Gonzalez some games. And then when they faced a bigger defensive line, he wasn't the starter because he was a shorter quarterback. And so to me, it's just going to be interesting of what they can do offensively. I think defensively they can stop a lot of teams, and they're going to be super physical. We know that that's what Coach Brew teams are all about. But what can they do offensively? They have some weapons. Christian Brooks, who is a commit to UL, he's a great wide receiver, has great hands. Who's going to get him the ball? So that, to me, is the biggest question. What does Brew do there offensively, and how do they kind of keep that train on the tracks? He knows how to win ball games, but how do they do it now with an offense that's a little bit unknown?
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on the show anytime you're available to talk ball. That's what you do. We'll do it again soon. Chessa Bouche in Baton Rouge. Thank you very much. That's going to do it for this week's Around the Boot. See you next time here on the LHSAA Network.